Okay, everybody, we are back, and yeah, we got some more fat reacts for you. This time I'm doing some TikToks, okay? Because I want some shorter videos. I'm kind of a little bit over editing those long podcast videos. Not that there aren't more to come, just taking a little bit of a break, do a few days off for that and then get back to it. But yeah, no makeup this week because I'm trying to give my skin a rest. And also, I'm going to be filming for as long as it takes me to finish this liter of water. It's cloudy because I got some sodium in it. If you know anything about me, I can't like hold on the sodium for whatever reason, so I can only basically drink water like this. But yeah, we're gonna see how many videos I get through the whole time I'm trying to drink this liter of water. The first one I got for you is a very interesting topic. It's basically this assertion that if you had a magic pill that could make you lose weight overnight, would you take it? Yes or no? I personally would take that. That would be fantastic. I would love that, right? Make things a little bit easier because weight loss, well, I don't think it's especially difficult to do. It's difficult in a sense it takes a very, very long time to do, okay? Patience is definitely a virtue when it comes to weight loss, and it's a virtue I had to develop over time. But there's definitely some fat activists who are more iffy on that subject where they like, no, I would never take a pill. I would stay fat for whatever reason. And I kind of got interested in this topic because if you watched part 4 of the Fat Fatties podcast I did yesterday, one of the people, I think her name was Alyssa, brought that up. But she's like, I don't know if I wouldn't take that pill. And it's like, in my personal opinion, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't just choose to be healthy in the most simplest way possible? But yeah, we're gonna see what somebody else's opinion is on it, and we're gonna check it out right now. To be honest, I actually got this off of Kiwi Farms because I couldn't find it on her TikTok page. So thank you, Kiwi Farms, once again for coming through. I have no idea what her name is. I have to look it up some other time. But basically, it says here, and if someone would give you a pill that loses weight in 24 hours, you would take it instantly. Don't pretend to be happy. There is no person on this earth that lost weight and said I was happy or fat. Now, part of the whole fat activism thing is an oppression hierarchy, right? You have to put yourself at the bottom of that hierarchy to say that you're oppressed because you're fat and therefore you deserve X, Y, and Z because everybody else is privileged, etc. And they also have to prove the assertion that fat is natural, it's genetic, there's nothing you can do about it. Otherwise, if there was something you could do about it, then that privilege technically doesn't exist when it comes to being thin, is what I mean, because then it means anybody can achieve it. So they have to definitely like shove that aside and say, no, I am healthy at this size. I can be healthy at any size and my fatness cannot change. And so that's why this magic pills issue definitely becomes a problem. Because if you're going to stand by their fatness, say, I'm okay in my body the way it is, then they probably have to also maintain that they don't want to change. On the other hand, we know in real life, I mean, I'm not saying Ozempic is a magic fat pill, but it's definitely something that's helped a lot of people lose weight and in a much easier way than I would say having to do diet and exercise just by itself, because it does take away those hunger cues, makes it a little easier to do that diet. And we've definitely seen a lot of people who were formerly fat activists take that magic Ozempic pill, so to speak, even though it's a little bit more complicated than that, but you know what I mean. Let's start watching this. Let's watch it all the way through once, and then I'll go back and watch it again and, make some comments as we go.
I would not take that pill. I know that it's going to be so hard for you to believe, so hard for you to wrap your head around, but I wouldn't take that pill. Would my life be easier if I did? Absolutely. I could be treated with respect. I wouldn't have to deal with fatphobic comments online and offline. I could go to the doctors and be listened to and taken seriously and not immediately brushed off and told to just lose weight, no matter the reason that I'm going to the doctor that day. I could more comfortably fit and sit in airplane seats, cinema seats. The list goes on. Our society has been set up to benefit thin people. So yeah, I do not deny that my life would be easier if I was thin. But I truthfully don't think that I would be happier. And I know that you've said here, don't pretend to be happy. Am I happy all the time? Absolutely not. I have depression and anxiety and CPTSD, but I've also been thin and miserable. I struggled with disorder when I was thin, and I would rather be in this body now than go back to that thin body or be given a new thin body with this magical pill. I am happy in the body that I'm in. I like being fat. I like being soft. I like the community that I've been able to find living in this body, connecting with other amazing plus size people, and just people in general that know that the way they look is the least interesting thing about them. So, no, I wouldn't take that pill. And you might not believe me, and that is totally okay. I hope that you have the day that you deserve.
Okay, so there's a few things there right off the bat I caught, and we'll definitely stop and talk about them as they come up. But why does it seem that every single person who is overweight happens to have anxiety, depression, and CPTSD, right? Even I have all three of those things, but let's put it in perspective for a second. There's something that I've said a lot, and that is I do not think that mental health and your physical health are separated. I think they're intrinsically linked. And what I mean by that is, I think your physical health affects your mental health. Visceral fat is very hormonally active. It's going to affect the way that your brain works. And hormones are essentially what cause you to feel the sensations of depression and feel the sensations of anxiety. Now, this is not to discount anybody whose like life is going terribly and they're like, I'm depressed, because you can see a cause and effect there. And they like to make the assumption that thin people don't experience those things in the same way because of how society treats them. Whereas, thin people probably experience depression, anxiety as well. I'm assuming guys, like obviously, but they're, in my opinion, less likely to have hormonal dysregulation due to their body size. And therefore, those sensations may not be as much. And so they're kind of conflating, in my personal opinion, their physical health with how they perceive society treats them. And honestly, too, like if we're just going to be honest, I feel like those three things are such big buzzwords at this point that I only believe maybe like 20% of the people who say they have them. And I know that sounds harsh and dismissive. And this is just my personal experience. I've just met so many people who claim to have these things and they actually don't. And yeah, I know it seems hypocritical because I have all three. And I'm like, oh, geez, like I've been through a lot in my life. I can see the actual cause and effect of what caused it. And guess what? Fatness did not cause those things, but I will say my fatness in some ways are a result of the CPTSD, and the anxiety and the depression are definitely enhanced by me being fat. And not because like, oh, how I feel about myself or how society perceives me, but because I have a lot of hormonal issues. I know that PCOS, right? Hypothyroidism. Those two things together really, really mess with your head. And yeah, that's basically just my point. So yeah, let's go back and watch it again and from the beginning and stop as we go.
I would not take that pill. I know that it's going to be so hard for you to believe, so hard for you to wrap your head around. But I wouldn't take that pill. Would my life be easier if I did? Absolutely. I could be treated with respect. I wouldn't have to deal with fatphobic comments online and offline. I could go to the doctors and be listened to and taken seriously and not immediately brushed off and told to just lose weight.
I know we've talked about this so much, so much, but this whole thing about going to the doctor and being told to lose weight, I just have such a hard time believing that it's a repeated issue, as in it happens every single time that you go to the doctor. It's probably happened like what, maybe a couple of times in your life when you first see a doctor, when it's your physical, etc. If you're someone like me, I go to the doctor like all the time because I have several issues. So I'm going to the doctor at least once a month. Are my doctors bringing up weight loss every single time I go in? Absolutely not. But if you're only going to doctor one time a year or two times a year for your like a checkup or whatever, or a physical, they're probably going to bring it up then because it's relevant to why you're at the doctor's office. And they'll say things like, well, I went in for knee pain and it told me to lose weight. Well, for obvious reasons, right? Your weight affects your knees. But they'll make really exaggerated claims like, I went in for a toothache and they told me to lose weight. Like, yeah, we don't believe that one. But I always think it's interesting that they'll talk about how people treat them and not about how, if you took that magic pill, let's take a look at your accessibility, right? If I could take a magic pill to lose weight, I could start training for a 5K. I could start training for a 10K. I've always had this dream that I could run a marathon. Of course, this dream I had it prior to learning I had my genetic disease. And so I don't even know if that's going to be possible, even if I do lose weight. But hey, you know what? It's a dream for a reason. But my whole point is that it's more than just about how you perceive society treats you, but all the things that you can do physically in your life that open new avenues for you, right? For example, I'm planning on volunteering with my church this summer, and it's going to be a very active role that I'm doing, as in like, I'm saying like active, like I'm really involved, but it's being like, I'm going to have to be very physically active during it. Could I have done that 2 or 3 years ago? Probably not, because I was struggling just to do it in my work life, right? But I'm at a much better place physically now that I can actually do something like that. But they'll make it about the doctors, or they'll make it about how people treat them often. Like they'll say online and offline. Like, let's be honest, like how much offline? How much offline, really? And I think she's gonna talk about like airplane seats in a second, or if she has already, I don't know. Let's see what happens.
No matter the reason that I'm going to the doctor that day, I could more comfortably fit and sit in airplane seats, cinema seats. The list goes on.
I always love when they bring up airplane seats and cinema seats, because you have to remember that so many of these seat sizes were designed prior to everybody's weight exploding. Obesity, morbid obesity, supermorbid obesity, these things were not common when we were starting to make commercial airlines. And so we had a standardized seat arrangement, right? Same thing with like a lot of arenas. They're standard for a reason. There's not actually as many people who are that large. And we already have seats dedicated to people who with special needs, right? There's handicap seating in arenas. There's handicap seating in movie theaters for people who have disabilities who actually need these larger areas, or like a space for a wheelchair essentially. But they act like it's discrimination because these standards did not evolve with the growing health crisis that we're now currently in. And it's funny because, like, if you watch the podcast React I did like a few days ago, one of the things they talked about was not giving disability passes for people who were significantly overweight because the doctor claimed to be enabling them. And while I didn't like the way that was phrased, there is kind of like an enabling characteristic to this, that if we did start expanding sizes for things, it's kind of like giving into the idea that people are going to be this fat forever. And I really don't think that we should do that.
Our society has been set up to benefit thin people.
No, it's not to benefit thin people. It's just that at one point in our history, like not even that long ago, a few decades ago, there was hardly any fat people. Like there was hardly any fat people. And so they could have a standardized like seating arrangement for people who are of a normal size. It's only in the last few decades that people have exploded in weight. They've gotten much larger due to our really terrible food systems, due to certain disorders. I'm gonna have to, edit out. If you hear her, if I see like an edit out part, it's gonna be because she's talking about her behavior disorder, right? But nobody is doing this to you on purpose. That's the thing that always gets me, is like they really think it's intentional. People were not out to get you when they did it.
So yeah, I do not deny that my life would be easier if I was thin. But I truthfully don't think that I would be happier. And I know that you've said here, don't pretend to be happy. Am I happy all the time? Absolutely not. I have depression and anxiety and CPTSD, but I've also been thin and miserable. I struggled with disorder when I was thin, and I would rather be in this body now than go back to that thin body or be given a new thin body with this magical pill. I am happy in the body that I'm in.
This is so interesting to me because she's essentially saying I would rather put up with society discriminating against me than go back to dealing with my mental health issues. And she's already claimed she's had mental health issues, right? She has depression, anxiety, CPTSD, and she apparently has this behavior issue as well. But to me, it's just like, I don't think that behavior issue is actually gone because you're still struggling with all these other mental health issues. And it would just be insane to me to not acknowledge that all those things are not related to each other. And also, it's crazy to me that people are constantly in this community claiming that they would rather be physically unhealthy, than mess with their mental health. And I feel like that in itself proves to me that you're not mentally sound when you say things like that. Probably because at the same time, they don't actually believe that they're physically unhealthy.
I like being fat. I like being soft. I like the community that I've been able to find living in this body, connecting with other amazing plus size people, and just people in general that know that the way they look is the least interesting thing about them. So no, I wouldn't take that pill, and you might not believe me, and that is totally okay. I hope that you have the day that you deserve.
Okay, guys. What did you think? I do believe her. I do believe that she wouldn't take that pill because she's probably so firmly entrenched in this belief system of fat activism and fat liberation that it's now like a political stance to remain overweight. And that political stance is reinforced by the toxic reinforcement of her behavior issue that she's already admitted to. But what would you guys do? Would you take the magic pill to make you lose weight faster? I definitely would if there were like no side effects, right? Like that's one things like people bring up Ozempic. I'm like, I'm not taking Ozempic ever just because I've read about those side effects and they sound awful. And also just want to prove that you can do it the hard, long way, right? And so hopefully I will be out of fatness soon. I mean, not that soon. I'm hoping that like I will be mid-size within the next 6 months. We'll see what happens. Wish me luck, right? But I am hoping against hope that within the next, within 1 year or a year and a half, I'll be completely out of everything. So yeah, just, keep wishing me luck and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, once again, tell me what you think down below. What things did you guys notice that I did notice? Okay. I'll talk to you later. Bye.